Well, hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. And now in this video, I'm going to be a complete idiot and take Enchantress to the absolute ridiculous levels. Basically, I just wanted to kind of break the game and play her in a super impractical way and see how it would feel if we threw a special 2 with 99 evocation spells, which means it would place 99 incinerate debuffs and have like a massive burst of fireball damage before we get to the special 2. And of course the crazy thing is, once she's ramped, every time you throw the special 2 that way, it will do the same amount of damage. So, you know, I will say caveat, this is like a completely impractical way of playing her. If you want to shed through 8 million health on this Iron Fist, there's a much better way to do it. You should watch my other video on her that I just made where I take on the Red Goblin from Necropolis, because with that we have a much more practical style that you would use in long form content. But again, we're just kind of using this as a test dummy to show that like her upper limits are absolutely insane. And you know, if this guy had 100,000 health, it actually wouldn't take that much longer than this video to get him down like the remaining 90,000 health once we get her ramped. So that's just how insane she is. So you've already seen a little bit of this ramp. Basically, the first part of this is just throwing as many evocation spells as possible. I chose Fireball, which is the best one for damage in her base kit, and I'll go over that a little bit later. I want to tell you a little bit about the different damaging spells and all that, but you know, essentially I just fast forwarded. This took about 1,200 hits or so in over 25 minutes, I think. It's just been nuts. We've just been throwing special 1 over and over and over again and doing the Fireball spell, which is like down, down, right. And then once we get to 99, there's another part of the equation, which is in order to reapply all of the previous spells, you can't just have orange, you also have to have purple. So we need some form of equilibrium. We don't have to worry about the green spells at all. I talked about that a little bit in my last video. Those are just defensive and it would give me the lifesteal and all that, but essentially we just need to match that 99 number that we see with the fireballs with any of our purple spells. And I'm just choosing Wilt. It's the easiest one for me to not mess up with the swiping. It's just backwards, forwards, backwards. And again, we fast forward again. Now we're almost at 1,400 hits, which means in total we've done like 2,500 hits. I think I got hit once or twice in this things and we lost our combo, but almost 45 minutes have gone by, and you're going to see the very tail end of this ramp. We did it all in once. We had to evade all these special ones, and just you can see all the chip damage that I've taken along the way, because of course it's like I said, it's been 47 minutes of just really stupid gameplay, but we're honing in on this 99th spell of Wilt here with this atrophy that has 0 utility in this fight, but we're applying it anyway because we need 99 and 99. And now what we do when we throw the special 2, we're going to get a little bit of an attack bonus. It's not that much because it caps out at 12 spells, and we have 198 spells, so it's a little bit more than 12. And what happens is there's going to be 99 incinerates that apply, and then there's going to be a fireball burst based off of their damage, and then those 99 are going to tick 20 times. And if he's not dead from the burst, then that will certainly kill him. But you're going to see here, the fireball burst kills him before we even got to see what the 99 did. So I'm going to have to use a little bit of math to figure out how much damage this actually would have done. But you could see right there, man, I'm just a total idiot. It was 47 minutes of fighting him, almost 48. But you can see here, the crits are nice. But then we have this nice 2.5 plus million red damage burst. And that doesn't even account for the incinerates that would have ticked away. So let's take a minute just to figure out how much damage this would have done if he had even more health. So here's my calculations. That's her base attack, which is with my masteries. So that's not her true base attack, but at least when I started the fight, that was her base attack. And then, we're talking about that much attack per spell. That's in her kit, right? And that maxes out at 12. So we obviously had more than 12 spells. We had 198 spells. So 12 times the attack bonus per spell equals that 23,000 number. We add our base attack to that. We get, that 27,000 number. And then what percentage of that is the attack on the modified attack? It's about 6.4 times, right? So that's like 642% attack. So that means when we fired our special 2, we got 642% attack. as opposed to just like 100% attack. And then, earlier in the fight, I noticed that my incinerates were ticking for 109. Now, there could be some kind of decimal in there, of course, so it's a little difficult to tell exactly if 109 is the true number. Or if it was like, 108.7 or something, then like all these calculations would be off. So just notice that, there's a little bit of estimating here, but it's a 10-second incinerate, right? And so that means 109 times 20, right? Because it's 20 ticks. And then we had 99 incinerates. And then we have our modified attack multiplier that we calculated above at about 6.4. So that means that over the course of those 10 seconds, we would have had like 1.4 million almost dot damage in addition to the burst. And that kind of checks out. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later too, because the burst is about 2/3 of the damage. And then the dot is about 1/3 of the damage, the way this is scaled. So that means when you add those two numbers, the fireball burst that we observed at 2.5 million plus the almost 1.4 million, we're talking about nearly 4 million damage in red numbers every time that we would have thrown a special 2. So that means, obviously, again, totally impractical, but let's just say we were facing somebody that had 100 million health, right? So it took us 47 minutes to get this far, but then all we have to do is build to special 2s. Every time we fire that freaking special 2, it's going to be 4 million damage of red damage. As long as we don't lose this ramp by getting hit by a special attack or something, that would be tragic. Thank God it did not happen to me. I would have cried. But yeah, it's just this insane ramp. And like, again, totally impractical, but I don't know of another champion who can build up to a 4 million damage red numbers off of their special 2. And note, this is just a rank 2. I didn't even bring her to rank 3 because I think I would have killed the Iron Fist too fast. But yeah, 4 million damage, and then every time we throw our special 2, it would repeat that. That is just absolutely insane. It's not game breaking because it's so impractical, but just like the fact that something like this exists in the game to me is just so mind bending, right? It just fits Enchantress to me, this master of mystic arts who's able to just like crank out this ridiculous ramp. I can't think of another champion who can get to this level and then sustain it. So now, last thing I'm going to talk about in this video, I talked to the designer a little bit about this because I was curious about the damaging debuffs and how they all work, right? So why did I choose Incinerate versus the Cold Snap and versus the Shock? And then we're going to talk about her synergy a little bit because, obviously it doesn't really matter. You're not going to do a 47-minute ramp in a normal fight, but you may want to decide like, hey, if I'm going to get like, 10 of these debuff stacks, or like more practically like somewhere around 5 or 7 for a Necropolis fight is probably where you want to go. Get your spells all matched up at like 5 or 7 or 6 or something like that, and then you'll be cooking with gas for a while. So which one do you pick, right? So I went with the Fireball because the Fireball is basically scaled at, the way the designer called it was scaled at 3, right? Because like I said, 2/3 of the damage is going to be the Fireball burst at the beginning, and then 1/3 of the damage is going to be the dot. Now, when you do the Cold Snap, it's actually only 2/3 of that number. It's scaled at what he called 2 to the 3 of the other ones. And what that means is that the burst of the Frostbite, right, there's an additional effect for each of these damaging ones. For the Incinerate, it's an Incinerate burst at the beginning of the attack. For the Cold Snap, you do get a Cold Snap debuff, but you also get a Frostbite burst. However, that burst is 1/2 of what the Incinerate burst would mean, meaning it's coming in at about 2/3 the damage of what the Incinerate Fireball spell does. And I think that the designer confirmed this. The reason is because Cold Snap has additional utility to it, which is, anti-evade. So having anti-evade, it sort of means that they have to balance it out a little bit and make the damage a little bit less. So far, if you're not tracking what I'm saying, Incinerate is mostly for damage because it doesn't necessarily have much of a utility effect. Like, yes, it does reduce their block ability, their block proficiency a little bit. That's how Incinerate works in this game. But overall, that's not that important. So they give Incinerate the max damage. However, the Cold Snap has the added utility of the evade, so it's coming in at about 2/3 the damage. And now the Shock, the thing I like about the Shock is it has an RNG element to it. Every time a Shock applies, it has a 55% chance to reapply itself, which is just a little bit more than a coin flip, which means more often than not, it's going to reapply once. It won't always reapply 3 times, but quite often it will actually continue to reapply. And you can get really lucky with some high rolls and have it like reapply multiple times, just like continually flipping that coin and getting heads like 3 times in a row, that can add to a lot of damage. But the thing with the shock is it's really variable in RNG. So you can't necessarily compare it to that guaranteed payout from the Incinerate, because sometimes the shock is sort of statistically supposed to do a little bit more of the Incinerate, but you know how RNG works. It can not work in your favor and you can roll low and then just not get as much anyway. So again, the way these 3 things work, Incinerate is the most guaranteed damage. Cold Snap is a little bit less, but it is guaranteed, and you get the additional utility of anti-evade, plus fewer things are Cold Snap immune, so that does have a little bit extra there. And then Shock, obviously, a lot of people are Shock immune, but not too many are Shock and Incinerate immune, so you might be able to alternate. And with the Shock, you are rolling the dice every time, but there is that chance that it'll continually re-roll and chain together. That's why it's called Chain Lightning. And if that happens, then you could actually end up out-damaging the Incinerate overall. It's just a matter of RNG, which is, you're always subject to RNG in this game. Now, lastly, we're going to take a look at this synergy here. Now, the poison that you get from Lady Deathstrike here and Psylocke is actually scaled the same way as the Incinerate does, right? Because it says there are 3 debuffs, or excuse me, 3 passives of poison, and that equals that like 3 times effect that you got from the Incinerate, right? So remember I said the Cold Snap was like 2/3 of the damage. Well, basically you're making up for not having the Incinerate Fireball Burst by having 3 actual damage over time effects, which is going to net the same amount of damage as the Fireball spell does. Just remember the Fireball spell is broken up into a burst, which is 2/3 of the damage, and dot, which is 1/3 of the damage. The poison, same amount of damage. It's just all of them come in as dot, and they come in at 3 at a time, which will affect your stack, right? Obviously, if you're trying to go for a ridiculous amount, it'll cap out at 99. You can only technically do 33 of the spells if you're as crazy as me and you want to try to max it out. So anyway, that's how that works. And the way the designer explained that to me is that poison does have extra utility, because with 3 stacks of poison, you're actually controlling the healing a little bit. It's going to reduce their healing, which is just added utility. And that's what you get for bringing a synergy champion. It's the same amount of damage that you get from the Incinerate, but you also get the added utility of a little bit less of the healing factor on the champion that you're facing. So anyway, I hope this demystified a little bit. I just wanted to show the absolute limit of breaking the game with Enchantress, and then also talk about the damaging debuffs. The key with her is that equilibrium. Essentially, you want to have all the orange, all of the green, and all the purple spells even, because when the green ones are even, then you will also get a life steal, which in longer fights can really help, sustain your life and give you a little bit of a heal every time you get that. But if you only want to focus on reapplying these damaging debuffs, you actually only have to focus on the purple and the orange. It can save you a little bit of time if you don't need any of that defensive utility, and there's not really much of a benefit to having all 3 at equilibrium if you're trying to do ridiculous things like I did today. It would have been 297 spells instead of 198 if I wanted to keep them all there, so I just skipped the green ones. So anyway, let me know your questions. I thought this was fun. It was kind of ridiculous, but I cannot think of another champion that yes, it takes 48 minutes to ramp her up, but once she is there, she can repeatedly throw special 2s that do 4 million red damage over and over and over again, and just continue to get rid of health on any opponent that would have like a massive amount of health. So take this information as you will. I'd love to see someone try to bring in like a lower rank Enchantress, and because you could do this with all of the effects. You could get 99 Cold Snaps, 99 Incinerates, and 99 Shocks and fire it if you really wanted to have a good time. It's just nothing can survive that onslaught, and it would just take so many spells that it's just absolutely ridiculous. But the fact that this exists in the game to me is really cool, and I just had a fun time with it. So let me know what you think. Thanks for checking out this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.